Hey, what's up YouTube, Scabadger here, and we're back on day 41 of our 100 player fan game series. So this is actually the last episode right here. After this, we're all done. Yeah, simple as that. So in this last episode here, basically how it's going to work is there's obviously all this naval combat up first. I'm going to talk about that briefly. I'm also going to talk about, in terms of series and episodes, what comes after the final episode of this, and also from there it will move on into the actual gameplay from the last day. So I'll do the introduction again like I normally do. So let's first start with where we're actually going after this episode here. So after this episode here, I've got a few things lined up, a few ideas in my head on what I'm going to post for content next week. So I have a week to figure that out. Luckily though, I do have some content in reserve, so I have one Let's Play backed up that I can throw out there and you guys will watch for the next couple of months, hopefully. And that will keep you guys occupied until the next fan game. But I'd rather not waste my only reserve and backup footage. So, I mean, apart from that, I have had an interesting option, an opportunity presented to me by Call of War, and that's potentially being able to view the next update for the game, next major update, before it comes out and post some footage of that. So at this point, nothing's been confirmed, but that could be on the cards for what you guys are going to watch next week. I mean, you don't have to watch it, but I mean, you probably will. You're pretty committed, I hope. Anyway, so that's what's on the cards for next week. So either it will be a Let's Play I have backed up in reserve and I will chuck that out and throw that at you guys, or it will be potentially a game in the new update that has yet to be released. So could be that. I'll know pretty soon. So while we're also on that point discussing the channel, sorry I haven't replied to any of your well, I may have at this point by the time I upload it. Yeah, sorry for being pretty slack on the comments this week. Now, I have just moved into a new house, so the internet has not been hooked up yet. So, I mean, yeah, they don't want to waste all the data on my phone by setting up a hotspot, and I don't really like working from my phone. So, yeah, so, I mean, until I get internet and I can work from my computer again, I'm not going to be responding to any comments. So, yeah, I'll get there one day. It'll hopefully be pretty soon, but at the moment, that's where we're at. So, next point of action, the naval combat that you're seeing right now. So, I'm going to probably do a future video on this and get more into detail about what's actually happening, and talk about it more in depth. So, this was the final battle between me and Indochina. I do want to do a Elites vs RLFs-esque video on this, so if you haven't watched those, definitely go check them out. But I definitely want to do that sort of type video on the whole naval combat and my battle with Indochina. Although in the end it did just turn into a way to keep myself occupied while we got the victory points, there was definitely a lot of stuff in it that's worth showing and some good points that you guys can definitely learn from. So that's why I'm speeding this up right now. So this was actually probably about 6 hours-ish of gameplay, and I cut out a lot of stuff that wasn't necessary, and I managed to squeeze it down to 35 minutes, and then I sped that up to by about 6 times, so it's about 6 times faster, I think, or 5 times faster. Anyway, and I managed to squeeze it down to 6 minutes, and that's what you guys are seeing now. So, yeah, hopefully that's fast enough that you can understand what's sort of happening-ish. So, this combat here was fairly typical of the combat that I'd normally engage in. Send all the submarines, have the enemy attack them, target them, and then make sure I move my ships in and out of range of any capital ships or ranged craft, and then move back in once they're fired and unleash my fire on them. And that's exactly what I did here. Now, this sort of combat that I typically engage in, and that you're seeing here, requires a lot of activity. If you slip for a second and you let your enemy hit you, it hurts. The reason in particular I'm pretty careful about not being hit is, at this point, I don't have any aircraft on my carriers. They're actually down south at this point, dealing with some, well, getting ready to deal with some of Indochina's aircraft. But generally when you have aircraft on your carriers, you don't want to let them get hit, because when they're attacked by artillery, they can be classed as infantry, so they can take a lot of damage. So there's not really too much to say, and I'll probably go more into depth in this combat in a future video, but as you can see, it's already pretty clear who's going to win. When the combat started, we were both equal, well, near equal in terms of number of craft we had. We both had about 50 craft, but really what it came down to in the end was the composition of our craft. So we both had 6 battleships going into it, but he had far more destroyers and submarines than we did. But he didn't have any cruisers or carriers. So we did have 6 carriers, and they were not effective in this at all. That one naval bomber could have probably been based from an air base, to be honest. But it's just easier to base it on a carrier and a little bit safer. So, you know, they pretty much rid off a few of our ships. But the real difference between us was the fact that I used cruisers. My cruisers, considering they were elite, gave me a massive advantage. Now, his 6 battleships equalized my 6 battleships, so basically equal, but he couldn't match my cruisers, which were elite level. I had 10 of them in the region, and, you know, a few cruisers is basically equal to 1 battleship, so 2 cruisers for 1 battleship. I basically had 5 extra battleships there in the form of cruisers, which he couldn't match. So, you know, in that respect, he was a little outgunned. Anyway, I'll talk about this more in the future sometime. Let's jump into the actual video. Hey, what's up YouTube, Skybadger here, and we're back on the last day of our 100 player fan game series, day 41. So, at the very start of day 31, when the game officially ended, we finished in 4th place. We managed to just jump in front of North Brazil to get that 4th place, so made the top 4. Would have liked to have made you know, the top 3, but hey, the coalition won, so we win as well. We can see that despite the thrashing Hero Boy got earlier, he's been able to retain and climb back up to 1st place. Rog, East Amazonia, is sitting in 2nd, King Congo, North Argentina is in 3rd, and myself, South Argentina, in 4th, with North Brazil in behind. The biggest non-coalition member is Lord Void, and then after that we have Papua New Guinea, Angola, who was an ally, I guess Papua New Guinea too was an ally, Quebec, ally, Cuba, ally, Texas, ally, Borneo, loose ally, Egypt, lucky to be alive, and that's really about it. So, yeah, that went pretty well. So there's not really much else to say. We're just going to finish off by looking around the world and finishing off and talking about how our war with Indochina ended. So the war with Indochina was never meant to, well, I guess actually at one point it was meant to wipe them out, but as the game changed and the situation changed, it definitely changed its purpose. So we can see in the end, he took over nearly 2 times as many losses as we did, and that's pretty good, to be honest. We did lose a lot of submarines and a lot of naval units in that fight, but overall we performed really, really well. So if we turn off morale map, there we go, and we go and have a look over there, we can see whereabouts we were at. So if we have a look at the moment, we come in and we zoom in, we can see that the anti-air units that I had got marching up have been destroyed. He was able to destroy those with his air force, and he did take quite a bit of damage doing it, as we can see from these units here. They're not quite in perfect conditions. I think he lost 1 aircraft to the 2 anti-aircraft guns. Now, we were building up another stack to send back in from here, but obviously, game ended before it could be complete. I believe I had more units queued up behind that. Yep. So, it would have been nice to have had a second chance of that, but hey, we ran out of time in the end, but we're happy with the outcome we got. Down in Auckland, I was still producing more aircraft. As we can see here, Intercept was finished. That would have been flying up any time to group up here. We also challenged Indochina to see who could gain air superiority, and I think overall, although we ended up challenging him pretty well, he probably still controls the skies. While there's no doubt about it that I was pushing forwards and pushing him back and dominating in most fights in the air, he still had the production to outpace me. If we have a look at that there, we can see that I have about 30 aircraft in the region, maybe more, for a little bit more luck. Okay, yeah, so about 32, 33 aircraft in the region, and that is compared to his 42. So he did have 10 more aircraft than us, and we had naval bombers which aren't very well suited for that, so he definitely won in that area. Now, on the ocean though, where we were doing a lot of our fighting, we definitely kicked some ass there. So if we have a look at our cruisers, we can see that they have sunk a lot of ships. Between the battleships and the cruisers of each fleet, they dealt some serious damage to our opposition, and that was really good to see. It's really good to see that the cruisers are actually pulling their weight. Considering having elite cruisers with the elite range, they were really able to do some damage. Now, there's not really much else to say if we look around the rest of the world. It's all been pretty static for the past few days, really. Like, I mean, we did attack Egypt because he pissed off East Amazonia by stealing a capital, and I know I said this last time, but don't steal capitals. Same reason last time, in the last fan game, our relations with the Aussies nearly fell apart at the end. Don't steal or deny people capitals. It really pisses them off. Trust me, it gets me too. I would have done the same thing if I was East Amazonia. So yeah, there's not really much else to say. We did nearly capture all of the United Kingdom, but it rebelled and we lost control of these two provinces at day change. So yeah, a little bit of a shame about that, but hey, you can't win them all. So I'm going to now take some time just to reflect on what happened in this game, talk about some positives, the negatives, and what we can do better next time. And I'm just going to start by saying that the biggest positive about this game was the coalition we had assembled. We had a pretty strong, pretty active coalition assembled from the start of the game. Even when it was just me, North Brazil, South Argentina, North Argentina, and East Amazonia, we made a pretty strong coalition with all of us being fairly active and contributing very evenly to our fights. We all had different areas, different strengths, but we were able to complement each other incredibly well, and this led to a united team that worked incredibly well together. So that was one of the positives about this game, something we did really well, something, you know, not necessarily I did well, but the whole team did well, was just teamwork and communication. Now, on the other side of things, there isn't really much else I feel I did particularly well this game, although I definitely improved on last time in terms of constructing an army. That was swiftly destroyed by Alberta. It was definitely an improvement on the last fan game where I had virtually no army, so that was good to see as well. I also looked after my economy to an extent, but I could have done more than that, although the majority of the issues I had in my economy were limited by my limited metal production. So, I mean, at the moment, producing 30,000 a day is actually pretty good, but earlier on we were struggling to produce the necessary amounts to keep up with upgrades and unit production. Going forwards, it'd probably be best if I didn't pick South Argentina again. In terms of its geography and its position on the map, it's a great choice. You only have to worry about what's up north, but it lacks iron production. So we actually zoom in and we have a look at the map, not in full screen. We can see that it only has 2 core iron producing provinces, and even, you know, at high level upgrades, it's not really enough to sustain my needs. So that really hampered my ability to make armored units, naval units, air units, and upgrade my economy at the same time. So I could, for one of the negatives, say I had a weak economy, but that wouldn't be fair on myself considering I was limited by the province I chose. So going back to that and going to the root of the problem, I need to be more careful in the places I choose to start. So there's not really much else to say in terms of things I can improve on. That was generally an all-round good game. Oh, and not being inactive and sleeping less. I need to do less of that. And I'm still pretty pissed about how National China sunk that fleet of mine. So going forwards, I need to sleep less and be online more to make sure those sort of events don't happen. I'm not sure how seriously I take that one, but I'll try not to lose like that again in the future. So there's not really much else to say. Going forwards into the next fan game, which I have no idea what I'm going to do for that, when it's going to happen, or what map, or anything, so don't ask. Well, I mean, you can ask, but I'm just going to tell you I don't know. So with that, I'm really unsure on how I'm going to structure it. So this game we ran into a few problems with multi-encounters. 3 people to be exact. Now, between these 3 people, they managed to take out nearly 1/3 of the game. So that right there is a bit of an issue, on top of the fact that they also took up an extra 3 spots that should have been meant for other people to join. Now, I don't know how to remedy this problem. On one hand, I could put a restriction on the rank you needed to be able to join the game. So place the rank at a point where a player is unlikely to have 2 accounts at that level. So say rank 30. That would be one way of limiting multi-accounting. It was very clear that the auto cheat did not pick up on these, and it took moderators getting involved to be able to deal with these people. So going forwards, if you guys have any suggestions or any ideas on how to deal with multi-accounting, that would be awesome if you could let me know. Now, I'd also like to say, in terms of gold, there was definitely gold use, but I was happy with the rates and its use in the game. Although there's no doubt that people did use it, I believe that everyone stuck to an appropriate level. There wasn't any gold spamming, at least from my view. Now, obviously, depending on where you are in the world, in this game, it could have been different. You could have seen completely different angles to me, but from my point of view, I was pretty happy with how that played out. So I'd just like to thank everyone for that in terms of helping provide a nice, fair and level playing field in that regard. So thank you guys for playing, and I hope to see you guys in the next game.